My name is Erin Roberts, and I am actually over here at Alta Sierra Intermediate School. I'm in the trenches with you guys. I am a teacher here, but I also do our site instructional technology coach as well. So I came across this a little while ago due to a share in our district and have been kind of working with this program, TeacherMade. And my goal for you is to try to make your life a little bit easier, because between the grading online versus, when we used to grade papers by hand, I could just fly a mile a minute and know what I was looking for. But digital grading has become very stressful and cumbersome in some situations. So I found this particular program, and one of the things I try to look for when I'm looking at different programs that might be useful for myself and other teachers in the same position is how much am I going to have to invest, number one, because finances are a big deal for me. So I look at that, and with this program, everything is free for life. So that's one of the perks that I do like about this. And then the other thing I try to think about is, okay, how usable is this? How relative is it? Is maybe one time and forget about, or would I start to incorporate this a little bit more? So it kind of checked my boxes. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then at least you know it doesn't, and you didn't waste any time. So at least you have another resource if you want to use anything. I'm nervous. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I'm very free forming. So I kind of go with the flow of things. And if you have a question, you can pop it in the chat, and then Sherry will kind of help us out. If you want to wait to the end, that's fine too. I know that you are tired right now. It is the end of the day. So I will try really hard to be concise, but hopefully not move too fast so that you get lost or anything like that. That's usually my biggest concern, because I don't like to leave anybody in the dark about anything. I like for you to be kind of with me along that pace. So I sent out a link in the chat, and if you'll click on that, it'll open up the same document that I'm in right now. And there's a couple of things on there that I kind of want to work with you. Thought it would be the best to try to give you a sample document so that you can actually click and drag and use the tools yourself. And that way we're all together. If you have questions about something, then I can be here to screen share and to kind of help you along the way. So on that second slide, hopefully you have the link and you have opened it up. It's going to force you to make a copy. So you'll have your very own copy of this slideshow to keep and manipulate however you see fit. But there's a sample sheet on there. If you would go ahead and open up that sample sheet and just save it to your desktop. You can get rid of it later. I don't expect you to keep it, but just go ahead and open it up and save it to your desktop. That's the one we're going to work with. And if you have any problems doing that, just kind of let me know, and I'll be more than happy to stop and let you catch up, or let me help you along the way. So hopefully it's going to be a sheet that looks something like this. It's two sheets actually, and it's on the electromagnetic spectrum. I am a science teacher, so I had to pick something sciencey, but I actually use this one with my students, and it has some options that we'll be able to utilize in the program as well. Then from there, what I would like for you to do, if you're comfortable, go ahead and go to TeacherMade. And once you're inside of the website, you're going to select sign up now. And you're going to choose sign in with Google. So I really recommend that anytime you have a program that you're able to use a Google sign in with, it's going to make your life a lot easier for you. And then again, sign in with your CUSD login credentials.
When we click on that link, is it supposed to take us to something we're supposed to sign in on?
Yes, it should take you, and I'll log out so you can see what it looks like. It should look just like this. And so you guys will want to go up to the sign up now. And then you should have an option for a Google sign in, and it should be a blue button for you. So while you're doing that, just to kind of cover a couple of features for you guys so you're aware, With this particular program, these are some of the different options that you have. You've got short answer, fill in the blank, check boxes, check all that apply, drop down selections. You can also do long answers. I will tell you, you have to hand grade those, just so you know. Multiple choice. Hotspots is an interesting feature, especially for reading teachers. This might be relevant for you. And then matching, true, false. Of course, there are numbers and fractions you are able to put in. There's a math feature on there that you can put in as well, all the way up to algebraic expressions. And then also there's a citing evidence where students can work with that as well. So those are some of the features that are available to you. But, and again, I kind of listed some major ones that the website went over. But for me, most importantly, what I was looking for is being able to take what I have traditionally used, digitize it, and make it easier for me to grade, to get through. So it kind of checked those boxes. And it communicates with Google Classroom. So I know the district's utilizing Google Classroom, and so it really helps with the import feature that it will automatically import your grades into Google Classroom, and you can retrieve your grades from there. So you don't have to go to the website to get them, which is also a nice little feature to have. So hopefully we're getting up to speed and you guys are able to create your account. And when you're inside, let me just show you real quick. Now, I already have some worksheets available, but hopefully you have this bar visible at the top. Okay. And from there, what you want to do is you want to select Create Worksheet. And remember, all this is being recorded, plus I've got some extra tutorials that I'll provide you to as well. So if you get behind or lost, please don't worry. I will make sure you're taken care of. So for this example, because we're just going to work with the sample document, I'm going to have you go to the title section and just please type in the word sample. You do have an option of a description if you want to, but for right now, we'll just skip that part. That's just if you want to be a little bit more detailed about what this is in reference to. And now you have a choice. The document that we originally downloaded, the one that I provided you, we're going to retrieve that. So there's two ways that you can do it. If you are a dragger, you can go drag it from your desktop and drop it on top of this area, or simply click this box right here like I'm going to do, and you're going to get a pop-up, and then you can go and find that document, and it should have been a PDF for you. Select it and click open. Now I'm so sorry. I'm going to do like I do with my kids. Am I going the right speed? Is everybody okay? Thumbs up, you're okay? All right. Okay. Sorry, it's my easiest way to communicate. All right, so we're there. We're going to open it up. Now, here's what I want to show you real quick. You're going to see the two sheets available to you, okay? You have the option at this point to, if you want to, you could drop one of them. So you'll notice that they're outlined red, but if I click on one of them and it's no longer outlined in red, that means it's not going to be part of my final product, okay? So for this demonstration, I actually am going to use both of them. So I want to keep them outlined in red. And then of course, you know, if you make a mistake and it's the wrong file, you could select, pick another file, or you can cancel altogether. So from there, now we're ready to click the last button, which is make my file. And then you'll have to give it just a second for it to generate. And here we are. So what I did is also inside of your tutorial, I included some descriptions of the buttons for you as well, but they're mostly like any other program. If you hover over them, they will also generate what that icon is for as well. One of the other features I like is it does have a student preview so that we can see what the kid would see, which is nice to have. We've got the zoom in and out, and of course you've got undo and redo buttons like you normally would in any type of a Google application. And then you've got a short answer. you've got drop down, you've got an open answer, and this is the one that you would have to manually grade if you choose to do an open answer, long answer response. Matching, which is super cool. True, false. Multiple choice. Check boxes. We also have a hotspot click area, which I'll show you as well. The math option. And then if you'll notice, there's this light gray bar in between math and this T. And what that means is these are the options that you have to create your document with. These over here are more for editing purposes, meaning if you want to modify your document a little bit, you want to add maybe some directions you want to modify to it or eliminate, then this is the area that we will utilize for that. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. So, for example, in this one, so when I had this document, this was, one of my classic fill in the blanks. And so for me, using Google Forms kind of became cumbersome because I would have to place an image of the document and the kids would have to scroll down and select the right one and scroll back up to the image and scroll to the next one. And so having 3 kids on computers at home, I saw the struggle that they were having. And so I like this because everything is right in front of them and they're not having to scroll constantly up and down. So I wanted to play with a couple of the features with you to see how everything works. We don't have to do every single thing, but I just thought at least you could try a couple of features out. So for example, on this first half, when I'm working with vocabulary, the one that I'm going to want to pick that is the most relative would be the text box. So, which is my short answer fill in the blank, which I can have auto graded, which is nice. So I would like you to select the text box, and then you're just going to simply draw one on that first line. And it should look just like that. And it is a click and drag motion, just like you're drawing any other type of text box. Okay, now, from here, I'm looking down, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of fill in the blank. So one of the features they also offer is a duplicate feature, which is nice. So what I would do is I would go up to edit and I can scroll down to duplicate and it will give me another text box and I can just move it where I want it to go. And again, I'm going to duplicate and place. So I'm just going to do maybe 3 or 4 boxes for you guys. Now the part comes where, okay, so what about answers? What happens then? So for this one, we're going to start with the very first one. I'm going to go ahead and double click on my new text box. It's going to open up an inside window that says edit short answer. This is where I can apply points. I can choose to have it not scored, or I can go all the way up to 10. The default is 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and write my correct answer in. Oops, if I could spell, sorry. Now, things you might run into is case sensitivity. So sometimes, in certain programs, if we capitalize something or don't capitalize it, it'll check the student's answer wrong, even though they may have had the right words. So this is where you have control. If you have something that you're using a document that requires proper punctuation and proper capitalization, this can be beneficial because you can select it to match upper and lower case, which is kind of nice. Now, for me, sometimes I have students that like to shorten things, so I might offer EM spectrum as well. So I can offer a couple of different choices. So if students input either one of those responses, they will get it correct. And for me, I do not need it for this particular example to be matched uppercase and lowercase, so I'm going to leave it alone. And from there, I'm going to click Save Changes. So now you'll see my answers in the box and I'm ready to go. What I'd like you guys to do is just take a half a second and hit the preview button so you see what it looks like. And give it just a second to load. And you can see the boxes that we made. And this first one, it's blank, but again, it's got the answer ready to go. These are also the tools students will have available to use as well. And I'll show you those too.
I was curious, you know, when you made the text box, how did you write the answers in? What did you push to go in there and enter those answers?
Sure, absolutely. Double click, a double
click. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. No worries. Yep. Double left click. Okay. So there's a couple of them for you. And again, you could just go along, input your responses as you see fit. So let's take a look at a different feature. Well, down here, I've got some open-ended response. Okay. So it's Thursday. It's 3:30 and Mrs. Roberts is tired. So I don't want to do long responses for these. So we're going to get rid of them. So we're going to use this nice little feature because I don't want my kids to get confused, because sometimes we'll say, oh, don't do number 10. And then half of them still do number 10, or they email you, do I do number 10? So I just don't even want them to see it. So for me, what I'm going to do is there's a feature up here called Color Block Eraser. So practice this one. When you select it, you'll see you get your classic T shape, and you want to click and drag over this area. And then once you release, it whites out. Now, I will tell you it's defaulted to have a black border and a white inside. Here's your editing features up here where you can change the color if you wanted to. For me, I want it to appear like it was never on the worksheet. So I'm going to keep it white, and I'm going to do one other thing, because for the students, they're going to still see this box shape. And some kids, they get confused by that. I do teach middle school. I'm just going to say that right up front. So sometimes they get confused. And so what I do is I usually go up here to the border color, and I also either select no border or white, and then it will disappear completely for the kids. And again, just to kind of show you in the preview mode, what the students will see, as I scroll down, it's completely white. So it kind of eliminates that for them. All right, so now let's go down to the matching. I thought this is something else that a lot of people might find useful, especially in elementary and in middle school. So here I have a selected choice of terms and the technologies that they match. And for this one, I have a couple of different options that I can work with. So like, for example, for me, I can either turn it into a multiple choice, in which if I did multiple choice, I would have A through G available for my students, and they would just simply choose which letter that they wanted to go with it. I could do check boxes if I wanted to. For me, I'm actually going to choose the drop down because I thought it was a nice feature to show you all. So click on the drop down, which is right next to the short answer one that we were just working with. And you'll see that it's telling you, hey, this is what you've selected, insert drop down. And I'm going to draw a box and extend it out about as big that fits right over my original answer choice box. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the short answer up above. I'm going to double left click, and it's going to pull open my little formatter. So again, I want to keep this at 1 point. You're welcome to change it if you want to. Now for my choices, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to list A, and then I can simply hit enter and do B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Erin, I'm sorry to bother you, but when I double left click it, I'm not getting that.
On the, see, am I, yeah. So did you double click on the box?
I did, and I'm getting like back, forward, reload, save as. I'm getting that.
Do the other button.
the right click button instead?
Try that.
That worked. All else fails, try the other button.
Try the other one. That's me. I'm a clicker, like my kids.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. All right, so and then from here, you guys can choose to shuffle the order if you want to. I don't need to shuffle the order, but what I do have to do is select the correct response. And for this particular one, the answer is going to be C. So I'm going to click on that circle to show that when the students select, this is the one they want to choose. Then I'm going to click Save Changes. Now you can see that the answer will be shown to me, but obviously not to the students. So instead of having to draw a new drop down each time, because this is selected and I'm on the drop down, I want to make more. Again, I want to make my life easier and faster. So I'm going to go back up to Edit, and I'm going to select Duplicate again. And boom, there comes another box. So I'm going to place it in my next spot. And so if you don't mind, just try a couple of them to make sure you can see how that duplicate feature works, and move them over. So here's the thing that you do have to kind of pay attention to is your responses, but that's nice. It shows you. So right now, everyone is set to C. So that's the part I would have to go in and change. And to do that again, I would double click on it, open up, and I would just change my response. Save the change. Double click, choose my other response, and keep saving the change. And that's how you do those. Does anybody have any question about anything I've gone over so far? Anything confusing? I'm moving too fast, or is everybody good?
There was one question about renumbering, like after you block out that one. So it's going to skip 10. So the kids are going to see 9 and then 11 and then 12.
So yeah, it's a good one. So what I've done a lot of times with my sheets is that you can go in there and I'll show you how to add a text box, and then you can modify the numbering as you see fit. So we can do that right now, actually. So let's take a look. And I do tell you this, it's not going to be perfect. So I know a lot of us are type A, but it's not exactly perfect, but it does match it pretty well. So for example, we ended with 9 right here, and we would want this one to be 10 for them so they didn't get confused, which is a great point. So if you want to practice, you could go up to teacher text. And again, just draw yourself a box that would match as best as possible. Double click on it. Type in what you would like, and I think it had that behind it, if I remember correctly. You do have a few options if you want to make it bold, if you want to, italics or underline or any of those features, you can do that to your teacher text. Change the font. There's a few variations and a few different sizes. So I have a feeling this one might be a little bit big, so I'm going to downsize it. So the other thing I would point out too is when you're adding text, it's automatically defaulted so that the background is white. So it's going to cover up whatever it's laying on top of. So you don't have to worry about that. You can choose for it to be transparent if you want to, but it's already set up to have a white block behind it. So I'm going to click Save the Changes, and I may have to kind of stretch it out a little bit. Yeah, because this is a little bit big. And then I'm going to pull it over and click off, and then you can see what it's going to look like. Okay. So there is the option to renumber if you have to. And then one other thing I kind of wanted to show you a little bit was on the last section, which has to do with true false. So these are pretty easy to insert for the most part. Again, when you go up to your teacher tools, when you select true false, you have options. So I know maybe for younger students, you may want to actually have true and false written out. Older students, maybe you just want the T and F, and then you also have the options for yes and no as well. So for my students, I'm just going to do a T and F because they're pretty used to that for me. And this is one of those exercises where if they find something wrong with the sentence, they have to rewrite it. And so for me, I'm going to modify that just a little bit, but let's first go ahead and put in our option choice. So I'm going to come to the end of the sentence. I would tell you on this particular sheet, I obviously practiced with it a little bit, but it was hard to squeeze in my T and F over on the left-hand side where it's kind of naturally made to go there. I had to put mine over here. So you can see how it's defaulted to be a certain size. So I had to kind of put it over on the other side, but it's still pretty obvious to the kids. I didn't have a lot of issues with them. They knew where to click and they did a pretty good job. Plus I pointed it out too. That kind of helped them a little bit. And then on this one, what you would want to do is go ahead and select by clicking the T. In this case, my statement was true. And you're going to see that it darkens in. And that means that's the answer that is correct for your students. And then you can, again, I'm a time saver. We have like a million things to do. So I'm going to click duplicate. And I'm going to take my new true false, and you kind of have to make sure you have the all fours, the cross arrows, and I want to drag it down to my next statement. But this time my statement is false. So I'm going to change my response to F. And for my students, this is going to be kind of difficult because I, again, don't want to do a ton of grading. So the grading is a little bit cumbersome for this instance. Sometimes it has a lot of relativity for us, but for me, it's going to aid a little bit to kind of cut the time down. So what I want to do is I want to turn this into where the students are actually going to choose the part of the actual sentence that is incorrect. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I'm typically not that person, but they kept calling. So I had to tell them. So what I want to do is I want to change this question just a little bit so it fits my needs a little bit better. So what I want to do is I want to create hotspots. I want them to choose what part of the statement is actually wrong. So I have to give them a choice in that. So this is where this might help with reading teachers. If you want them to identify specific words, if they're looking for pronouns in a reading portion, or if they're looking for capitalization or something like that, and they selected text that you have, this is where this might play a good role for you. So I'm going to go up to hotspot, which is the little fire icon. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to select electromagnetic radiation. And it's kind of hard for me on the rounded corners because it tends to cut off the text a little bit. So I'm going to uncheck that as an option. I'm going to make it more rectangular instead. And then I'm going to draw one more. Oops. And I'm going to do only visible light waves as my second portion. And again, I'm going to get rid of my rounded corners. Now, I do know that some of you right now might be saying, well, but Erin, this is going to tip off all my kids to which ones are true and which ones are false. So in order to kind of play that game back a little bit with them, you can actually continue to do this, but then everything's linked as true, or you can kind of leave it free flowing like this. So it's just one of those things you have to find what works for you. And so for me, you know, it may tip them off that they're false, but I'm still checking for understanding if they're able to select the part that is incorrect. So you can put in a couple of false advertising ones if you wanted to kind of, again, lead them in that direction if they're not really sure which ones are true or false, but it's totally your choice. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So I have these two that I've created that one of them is going to be considered false. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that they're linked together. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the shift button with your finger and hold it down. And you're going to select one part, which you can see mine is selected, and then click on the other box as well. You want them to turn blue. That's the trick. Okay. Then you can release the shift button. Okay. And now they are linked together. Okay. And so for me, the second part is the part that is incorrect. So I want to make sure that's noted. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I've done before. I'm going to double click and open it up. And in this instance, this is the spot that is actually incorrect. So this is the one I want them to click on. So I'm going to select the very top option. And then I'm going to save my changes. So the first part is correct. So again, I'm going to double click. And the students should not, they should leave this hotspot unclicked because it's the correct portion. And again, save my changes. And now you'll see that the little, it almost looks like a little mouse to them, that little gray icon underneath there. When it turns gray, that means they're linked together and you have a right answer and you have a wrong answer. So you would just repeat that process throughout as you move through your document. Okay. And then to top that off, that also made my directions being altered a little bit. So what I could do is I could go up to my teacher tools and again, choose a text box and I could cover up the portion in which I want to change and modify my instructions. So I think it was and select, whoops, I'm on all caps. Don't want to scream at them. Select the correct or incorrect, sorry. And if I want to, again, I can kind of modify things a little bit. You'll see that, again, it's not a perfect match, but it definitely stands out to them. And you can turn it red if you wanted to so that they can see what they're supposed to do. And you want to continue that throughout. And then if you'll notice, you also have the option to insert an audio recording in there for students. If you have some directions or some modifications to the document that you want to make, you also have that option. I won't be able to demonstrate that too much right now just because we're on the Zoom. And so it kind of crosses over with the microphone a little bit. You can also insert links. If you want your kids to do more of a web quest and they're hunting for things, you can also hyperlink in here if you want to. You can also have a free draw, highlighter, and an eraser itself. So lots of different options. So let's take a look at what we have so far. I go into the student preview mode. And I kind of look through, okay, my boxes came in. And then I've got my drop down set up. I've got my true false. So I'm pretty much good to go. All right, now comes the part with Google Classroom. So what you guys are going to do, whoops, I can click, there we go. All right, so from here, what I need to do is I can go ahead and close out my document because I'm all finished working on it. Everything auto saves as you go along. And then it's going to put you back, hopefully, in your My Worksheets area. And it gives you an option to, now that we've created it, we can assign it. So this is the part, if you have a sandbox that you, like a play Google Classroom that you use a lot, this is something you may want to play with a little bit first. I know I do a lot. I made like a Google Classroom and I literally put my own children in it. so I could just kind of play around and see what it looks like on a student end. So that's something I encourage you to do if you have a capability of doing that, or at least just seeing what it looks like inside of there. But you can preview the worksheet or you can create an assignment. So I just wanted to briefly show you how to push it out as an assignment. And in the first few steps, it will automatically include the name that we gave it with a dash and the word assignment behind it. But you can modify that if you want to. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and this is my EM Spectrum worksheet. So I'm going to modify my name, but you don't have to. It's totally your preference. And this is where you have the choice. So if you are consistently using Google Classroom to push out your assignments, then I would highly suggest you do it now. If you want the kids to travel to TeacherMade, then you can also select that it just be pushed out through TeacherMade. I have not, I'll be honest, I have not tried it through Canvas personally because most of my stuff is pushed out through Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and click next. Here's where I get to pick which course I want it to apply to. So again, I'm just going to put it in my sandbox. And one of the other things that I like is this would be really good for remediation purposes. If you have kids that are struggling, or maybe you want to offer opportunities for growth and, you know, grade help and things like that, you can actually turn it on to pick individual students. So if I only wanted 1 or 2 of my students out of my class to work on this and the other ones don't need to, then I can select who I want, which is kind of that's actually something new they rolled out in February. So it was a nice addition that they made. So then I'm going to click next. And on this screen is where I have more decisions to make. And this is completely and totally your preference level. It is whatever you are used to doing and how you grade in your classroom, that is up to you. You can change the point value. 100 is the highest. So I tend to be a 10-pointer girl, and it will auto adjust everything to 10 points for me for a total score, which is nice as well. I do not work off of percents. I just happen to work off of points earned. So I go ahead and select that. And then this is the portion where you have, again, flexibility. Do you want to wait and release your scores when you actually return the work to them when it's graded? Do you want to do just a total score, score on individual items? Which ones do they get correct? And then score and correct answers on individual items as well. So showing you your total score and which ones you got correct and incorrect. And then last, what information does the student see when the work is returned? So for me, I don't necessarily at the middle school level like for them to see a lot of the correct answers, just to kind of keep my documents a bit more secure. So I just do total score. And then if they want to come into intervention and work with me on the document, then I do that. So I just release total score and then I click next. The last step is just the options for the kids. It's defaulted for them to have all the options, and I just let them have them. So if they need to create text boxes or they want to draw on it. So you can tailor this to your needs, but it's pre-designed for you to have all of them selected. You can certainly uncheck whatever you don't want on there. For younger students, you may want to consider that. I'm not sure. Totally up to you. And then you click save. And again, creating the Google Classroom classwork for you. Okay, so now I'm one of those people that I'm like, wonder if it really went there. so I always like to make sure that it's in there because I'm a doubter. Like, you never know. And the kids are like, I don't see it. So I travel to my Google Classroom. I pull open my sandbox. And boom, there it is. So when the students click on it, just so you guys know a little bit more from a student end, when they pull it up, there'll be an actual link. So they'll click on the assignment. I can't remember if it's in the instructions. Yeah, it looks very similar to this for them. So they'll actually click on that link. It takes them to TeacherMade. They're already logged in. They complete the worksheet. They click, I'm done, and it gets turned in automatically. Okay. And if you're synced that you like to grade out of Google Classroom, your grades will also be produced in Google Classroom. So they will be there and they will also be in TeacherMade for you as well. So, okay, that's it, folks. Does anybody have any questions that I can help with?
Can you select more than one Google Classroom to put it in at a time? Because I tried to, because it brought up all my Google Classrooms. And so I tried selecting, but it only let me do one at a time. So I'd have to redo it each time for each class.
I believe I have only selected one at a time. Yes.
Okay.
So
wow.
what I end up doing is going to my worksheets. And you'll see some of the ones that have been pushed out, the time and date and all that stuff. And then I just go ahead and find my worksheet. And then I go through the assign process. So you can see I've assigned it to 3 different classrooms. So yes, that is there. Any other questions?
So some of those things were marked pro, and I see it says pro open house. Does that mean eventually those things are going to be paid, a subscription type of feature eventually? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I reached out and they said that as long as you are subscribed right now, everything you have should remain free for the remainder of however long you live, however long you have the account. And that's what my response was. So, and this was actually created by a teacher. So I think they understand the struggle that we face right now and they're sympathetic towards it. So for right now, I have not had any issues with anything being revoked. And in fact, this whole open house thing is fairly new. And it kind of alarmed me at the same rate. I was like, whoa, pro, what? But as of right now, that's why I kind of wanted to share the news was if you get in now, everything that I've been made aware of is free for life. Just like Loom. All right, anybody else? Okay, well, I will not keep you any longer, folks, because it's 4 o'clock and I know you want to hit the timeout button. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to stick around. And if you don't, thank you so much. You made me feel better. I made it through. My neck didn't get you red. So I appreciate your time and patience. And I also included my contact information and some YouTube videos for help. Feel free to use them. Reach out if you have any problems. Okay.